that have come into the Hebraic faith through the Messianic, and many of our friends, even fellow pastors, have accused us. I know I've been accused so many times that I'm going back into the law. You've heard that term, back into the law. And a lot of it is because in the Torah, which the word Torah should not be translated as the law. It should be translated more as the instruction, the teaching that Adonai gave us. But yes, within the Torah, within his instructions, within his teachings, there are statutes, decrees, different names that the King James and other English Bibles use, that two main Hebrew words are used, the mishpatim and the hukim. And within those there are blessings and curses. The Torah was given to us not to save us, not to bring salvation. The Torah has nothing to do with salvation, but it has all to do with sanctification. The Torah has nothing to do with everlasting life, but it has everything to do with life in this world. If Adonai wanted to save us through his Torah, he would have come to us again, as we've said before, in Goshen and said, here is my Torah, follow this and I'll redeem you. He didn't do that. He came to us in Goshen and says, by the blood of the Lamb, I will redeem you. And Pesach is a reminder that we are redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. But from Goshen, after we were redeemed, he brought us to Sinai. And it was in Sinai that he gave us the Torah. The Torah is not to redeem a people, but for a redeemed people. The Torah is a way of our soul being changed, our soul, our life being changed. To be born again, to have life, to be a people of Elohim. It's always been about grace through faith. Adonai has always given us his grace, and we've reached out and received his grace by faith. Grace is Adonai reaching down. Faith is us reaching up. And that connectedness between his grace and our faith, that's what brings salvation. And once we're a saved people, once we are a redeemed people, then there is a way that the redeemed people, once by faith we are his people and our spirit is alive with him, then like Psalms 19, 7 through 10 talks about, the Torah of Yahweh is perfect, converting the soul. Not converting the spirit. That takes grace through faith. But our soul, who we are, who we've been. Who have you been? We all know who we've been since we were little kids. We've all known how malcriados we've been. We've all known our thoughts, our ways. Only we ourselves know who we've been and who we really are. Only we, even those closest to us, nobody knows us except us and, of course, Adonai. And how we've been with our soul, who we are, chasing after the flesh and what the flesh wants. From the time that we could remember to the time that we got born again, that he saved us. Our soul and our flesh, our body, have been in cahoots with one another. And whatever the flesh wanted, whatever it desired, the soul was, well, now that we're born again, now that we're changed, we're a changed people, we're a redeemed people, now the Spirit needs to be in control. But because the Spirit needs to be in control, and the soul, the old man, who I was in cahoots, the old man is the soul and the flesh in cahoots with one another. We need to kill the flesh, destroy the flesh, and we need to convert the soul. We need to convert the soul from where it's been the last 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60 years. And we need to convert it to follow the Spirit. And here's where Torah comes in. Here's where the Torah really comes in. Because the Torah is this that washes, that cleanses, the word of the Torah. Remember, the washing of the water by the word in the apostolic writings has to do with the Torah. With the Torah, it's the Torah that washes us. It's the Torah that cleanses the soul from all the has-been, from all the cahootness with our past in the world. And here's where the Torah comes in. Because now that we are a redeemed people, now that we are born again, now that we have been set free, and I love the kids that are learning Torah now from the beginning. Because now the Torah could share with us. The Torah could give to us life in this world. We have life everlasting by the blood of Yeshua. We have life everlasting. But Yeshua doesn't want us to be otherworldly. We are going to spend eternity with him. But between the time that we're born again to the time that we go home to be with him, that chunk of time needs to be lived. And he wants to bless that chunk of time. And think of that chunk of time. He wants to bless it and not curse it. He wants to bring blessings there and not cursings there. Before we get into our scripture, let's kind of give a little overview of the whole parsha. And again, like always, we never have enough time to hit everything. But let's just kind of peruse a little bit. It begins in chapter 26, verse 1. And our parsha today is called Ki Tavo, when you enter. Now remember, the book of Devarim, Deuteronomos in Greek, the retelling of the nomos, and again the Greek word nomos, law, and hardly translates. We would call it the Deutero Torah, the second Torah. The book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, these are the words in Hebrew, are only a month in length. And it's 3.5 little discourses that Moshe gave us on the other side of the Yarden. And there's 3 little discourses, and a part of a second discourse, which we definitely know that Joshua filled in to close up the book. But these are 3 discourses, and the book of Deuteronomy takes place only in about a month's time. And so we're in the middle of the second discourse here. And it says, when you enter, Ki Tavo, when you enter, Bo is come. So when you come in, when you enter the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you for an inheritance. Now, this sets up the idea that the land, remember, the land is central to Israel. The land is central to Hebraic thought. And when we enter, when our ancestors entered the land, which is the inheritance, the land is an inheritance. The land is not something that the Hebrew people will occupy. The land is not a place where they will steal from others. It is Adonai's land in the first place that the Canaanites had occupied. In fact, it was the Canaanites that were the occupiers. And Adonai wants to give his land to his people, and they are to drive out the occupiers, the ones that had come in. He says, when you enter this land, that you will receive it as an inheritance. And you've taken possession of it and are living in it. You must set aside the first fruits, the primicias, the first fruits of the produce of the soil raised by you in the land Yahweh your Elohim has chosen to give his name a home. The land of Israel is the place that is the home of the name of our Elohim. And Yerushalayim is the city, as we've already seen, and we will see again, is the city where he will give his name a home. Well, where the center of our faith is, which is the Mishkan. Now, we have lived without a Mishkan for 2,000 years, without a temple. And so we are not temple oriented. But remember, Adonai is temple oriented. Adonai is oriented towards that place that is the place of his presence. The place of his presence. His kavod. Where his kavod is. And so much of our reintroduction, and those of you that are finding out, you know, in fact, let me kind of do a little rabbit trail here. Right before Tom and I were talking about Hebraic faith and some things, and one of the things that's important for us to understand, biblically, there is no such thing as conversion to being a Jew. That's a modern rabbinic thing, to convert to be a Jew. Now, we can convert from death into life. In fact, the New Covenant scriptures talk about conversion, but it's talking about lifestyle, not from one to another. In Torah and the rest of the Tanakh, people actually, and this is really interesting, nobody talks about this, but if you really look, no one in the whole Tanakh ever converted to Judaism. There was no Judaism in the Tanakh, no Judaism. Nobody converted to Hebraic faith. What they did is they just assimilated into it. And the Gerim, the one, in fact, we're going to talk here about the stranger. The stranger, the Gerim, are people that, and today the Gerim many times are translated as strangers, foreigners, but the word is a proselyte. But a proselyte is not someone who is going to convert to Judaism. In those days, now it's different, but in those days, a proselyte was a Gerim, was someone from another people group, another faith, and all of a sudden they joined Israel, became what we would call a resident alien, and then they just assimilated and became part of the Hebraic culture. Ruth is a very example of this, where she just assimilated in. She didn't convert. In fact, her declaration is just a way of her coming and assimilating into the faith. And those that are, in fact, in a little while we'll talk a little bit about the olive tree and the Gentiles from Jeremiah 11 and Romans 11. Gentiles that accept Messiah are grafted in. That grafted in, once you're grafted in, you are assimilated into the Hebraic faith, and you become part of the olive tree of Israel. And once you're part of the olive tree of Israel, then you bear the fruit of the cultivated olive, and you are one with Israel. That's why every Gentile who accepts Messiah and is baptized into Messiah becomes a son of Abraham, because Abraham is one of the roots of the trunk of the olive tree of Israel. And you become, as it were, as Torah says, as a native born. Every Gentile that accepts Messiah and is baptized into Messiah is, as it were, a native born. So there shouldn't be no, I'm this and I'm that. But those that are Israel, because of whatever reason, through Inquisition, through Holocaust, through all kinds of financial or economic reasons, have left Israel, have not even been in Israel, and now have discovered, some of you are discovering, especially here in New Mexico, there's so many that are doing their DNA and their genealogy, finding out, look at this, I'm Cohen, I'm a Cohen, I'm Israel, I'm a Levite. And you're discovering this. And again, a lot of people want you to convert into the faith. They want you to convert and become a Jew. No, you don't need to convert. All you need to do is return and assimilate back to Torah. Assimilate everyone, Jew, Gentile, male, female, rich, poor, nice looking, ugly. We need to assimilate back into this faith. And now everything of Israel is our inheritance. Think of it. Israel is your inheritance. As a Jew, as a Gentile, Israel is your inheritance. And that land is our land. It's part of our land. Because our ancestors walked that land. Our ancestors received that land as an inheritance. Received that city, Jerusalem, and were at the temple. And so over here it says, when you come into the land, you are to bring and set aside your first fruits. By the way, again, the first fruits is, again, something that Adonai gave us from the beginning. The first murder, the murder of Abel by Cain, had to do with bringing first fruits. Came to bring the tithe. And Abel brought the tithe because he was a herdsman. He was a keeper of flock. And so he brought the firstborn. He brought the first and the best without blemish. And he brought it to Adonai. And Adonai was blessed. I'm blessed with your bringing this first. But Cain, who was a keeper of fields, He was a keeper of grain and all that. Well, he didn't bring his first fruit. He didn't bring his bekurim. He didn't bring that which was the reshit of the field. It says he brought some. You see, Adonai doesn't want some. In fact, Adonai doesn't want some of your money. Don't bring to Adonai some of your money. Because if you bring to Adonai some of your money, he's not going to be pleased with some of your money. In fact, he doesn't even want all your money. Adonai doesn't want all your money. He doesn't want some of your money. He doesn't just want a tip. Adonai wants the first fruits. He wants the tithe. He wants the first 10%. That's all he asks. You could have 90%. I'll just take the first 10%, not the last 10%. The first 10%. By the way, the first 10% belongs to Adonai. The first 10% belongs to Adonai. The next 80% belongs to living, to life. For everything you need, 80% belongs to life. And then the last 10%, belongs to your savings, belongs to the future, belongs like the ant. A lot of people say, well, we don't need to say. Well, the ant does. Doesn't the ant, in Proverbs says the ant is a people. Oh, I didn't know ants were people. The ants are a people, not strong, yet in the summer they save for the winter. But Adonai doesn't want the whole 90. He wants only 10%. And the first fruits, the first of everything, belongs to Adonai. And one of the most important teachings of blessings, and again, today we're talking about blessings and curses. You want to be a blessed people? Then we give to Adonai the first, las primicias, the first, the tithe, the 10%. And so when you do this, and by the way, Jerusalem only, Adonai is going to choose that place. And then you come to the priest that will be in office there, and you come and you give. My father was a wandering Aramean. A wandering Aramean was my father. And you speak how we were redeemed out of Egypt. We got set free. In verse 12, it talks about every 3 years. There was a cycle of every 3 years. The third-year tithe. Interesting about the third-year tithe. The third-year tithe was given to the Levite, the Gerim, the orphan, and the widow. So every 3 years, every third-year tithe was given to the Levite, because remember the Levites, and within the Levites is the Kohanim. Remember, all Kohanim, all priests are Levites, but not all Levites are Kohanim, priests. And so the Levites is a tribe, and the Levite, all the Levites, the ones were Cohen of the Levites, and the ones who were not Cohen, but the ones who also served, are to be blessed by the people. The service of the Levites, because they didn't have an inheritance, was the responsibility of the people. The responsibility of the Gerim, these proselytes, these people that have integrated, these people that have assimilated into Israel, are to be supported also by Israel. The orphan, the widow, is to be supported by Israel. Now, what's interesting is that this is every third year. So there was like a 30-year bonus. But by the way, 3 times every year in the regalim, in the pilgrim feast, 3 times every year, all the men folk are to assemble before Adonai. And it says, do not come empty-handed. And those funds, 3 times every year, are also given to the Levite, the Gerim, proselytes, the widow and the orphan. So, by the way, we're coming up on Sukkot, and on Sukkot is the first day of Sukkot, which I believe this week might, again, we still don't know when Sukkot is. And so don't ask when is Sukkot. We don't know. Don't ask when is Yom Teruah. We don't know. Don't ask when is Yom Kippur. We don't know. Nobody knows. Only Adonai knows. And when the new moon of the 7th month appears, then we'll know. But on the first day, we're kind of thinking it's going to be, I think, a Friday morning, I think, or Thursday or Friday morning. But when the first day of Sukkot occurs, all the men meet here. So we're going to meet over here at 9 o'clock. We meet at 9 o'clock. All the men meet here at 9 o'clock because we are told 2 places. 3 times a year, all your men folk are to appear before Adonai, and they must not appear empty-handed. So men start getting ready, and we bring produce, we bring foodstuffs, we bring kesef, we bring silver before Adonai, and all that goes to the poor, the widow, the orphan, the Levite, and those that are strangers, those that are proselytes. And we bring it in, and then we redistribute as the need is. So the Adonai is always concerned about the widow, the orphan. Adonai is always concerned about the Levite. He's always concerned about the proselyte, about those that are coming into Israel. Because Adonai, up until now, Adonai had the doors open for anybody to be part and assimilate and become part of Israel. It wasn't a hard thing. It was an easy thing. Now walls have been built and locked, and very few could get in. But in biblical times, it was very easy. Let's see. Chapter 27, verse 1. Moshe and the elders of Israel gave the people this command: keep all the mitzvot I give you today. Keep all the mitzvot. These are commandments. Mitzvot, keep them all. By the way, mitzvot are not charity things. Many people use the term mitzvot for charity. Hebraically, a mitzvah is not a good thing you do for someone and you'll get a blessing out of it. A mitzvot is a commandment that we must keep, a commandment that must be done. Keep all the mitzvot. After you have crossed the Yarden into the land Yahweh your Elohim has given you, you are to set up tall stones, coat them with lime, and write on them all the words of this Torah. And so when they crossed the Yarden, they were taken to Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, and he tells them, you are to take tall stones and write on them the commandments of the Torah. And so in one mountain and the other one, these two tall stones were set up with the words of the Torah. And by the way, many people today, especially the Samaritans, to this day, in every town you go to this day, they have a copy of the 10 Commandments in a stone entering the city. They still keep this commandment. The Samaritans are the only ones that keep these commandments. And by the way, that is the purpose of what people call in the Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Ve'achavta et Yahweh, and you shall love Yahweh, and you shall what? Write these words. Speak them to your kids, and you write them on your doorpost, on your mezuzot. The word mezuzot is a doorpost. Today, rabbinically, there is a little box that we have to identify with Israel, but it's called the mezuzah. The mezuzah. And today in the mezuzah, there's a little scroll with the Shema in it. But that's not what the mezuzah was for. In fact, there was no such thing as a mezuzah until modern times. What we are told there in Deuteronomy 6:4 is to write these words. And what are these words? These words are not the Shema. If you look right before the context of the whole thing, Moshe just reiterated in Deuteronomy 6:1 and 5 the commandments that we had received in Sinai. So it's the commandments that we are told to write on our gates and on our doors. So in ancient times, what they actually had is they had a scroll of the 10 Commandments that were visible so that you could read the 10 Commandments as you went in and went out. When you went into the city, and remember Mount Gerizim, that's one of the first places they went, and then they went to Shiloh, right to the east of there, a few miles. And every time they passed through this pass, they saw the commandments. They saw, and again, these were, and every time you come into your doors, in and out, you should be able to see the commandments. Today, when you look at the mezuzah, by the way, never kiss the mezuzah. Do not kiss the mezuzah. A lot of people kiss the mezuzah. When you come in, you touch the mezuzah, and then you say, may these words, meaning the 10 Commandments, may these words be on my lips and my heart. That's where it started from. Today, it's become an object. It's not an object. And by the way, the mezuzah should have the 10 Commandments inside of it. Or just put the 10 Commandments outside. And yes, the Shema is our declaration. But the commandments, these commandments, Adonai wants them front and center. He tells them, write these on tall stones so that everybody could see. So that when, it's just like speed limit signs. Sometimes you're going through a road and speed limit signs are far and far between each other. And you don't know how fast, well, I didn't see the last one. Was that 30 miles or 45 miles? I wish they would put speed limit signs more often. More people, I think, would obey them and less people would get tickets. Sometimes I think they like that so that they could actually give you a ticket. But if we were to see the 10 Commandments everywhere, as we came in, all of a sudden, thou shalt not, you shall not take the name of Yahweh your Elohim and use it in a vain manner. You shall have no idol, no adultery. Every time we go in and out, sometimes we need to be reminded more and more. And that's what happened here. And then he sets them up there in Mount Evil and Mount Gerizim. Verse 9. Then Moshe said, and the Levitical priest to all Israel, be silent, Israel, and listen and shema. Today you have become a people for Yahweh your Elohim. Today you have become a people for Yahweh your Elohim. And this people that they have become, the people of Elohim. Think of it, Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov, the descendants of the 12 patriarchs, 12 tribes. Kol Israel, all of his people, and all those that left with them in Egypt and assimilated in the 40 years. Many assimilated, many were destroyed with the rest of Israel, but many assimilated and had children of the assimilation. And these children are coming into the land now. These are the people of Elohim. In fact, this is what he calls his olive tree. His olive tree. Go with me for a moment to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 16. Go to Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 11:16. Jeremiah 11:16. And watch what it says there. A spreading olive tree, so fair, so sturdy, was Yahweh's name for you. Here you have become my people today. And this people of Israel is the olive tree of Israel. An olive tree so fair, so sturdy, was Yahweh's name for you. By the way, here in the time of Jeremiah, in the time right before the captivity, after the split of the kingdom, after Solomon, after David, after, the judges, and after all that time, Adonai says, a spreading olive tree, so fair, so beautiful, was Yahweh's name for you. Can you imagine? Yahweh looked upon Israel as this spreading, beautiful olive tree. And the olive tree has always been and always will be the symbol of Israel and the people of Israel. Let's go back to Deuteronomy here. So we have become his people. Verse 9. We have become, but you must listen to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim and observe the commandments and the mishpatim, the mitzvot and the mishpatim I give you today. Remember, we've been already redeemed. Over here, we were redeemed. We spent 40 years in the wilderness because of our disobedience, the disobedience of our ancestors. But now we're ready. The next generation of our ancestors is ready to cross. This is your land. You are my people. But I want you to observe these commandments. I want you to observe these mitzvot, these mishpatim. And from verse 15 through verse 26. What happens? What happens if we do not observe What happens if we do our own thing? What happens if we as a redeemed people, look at it, as a redeemed people, what happens if we who have been redeemed, we've been given a land, we're about to enter that land of our inheritance, but what happens if we as a redeemed people do not obey him? Then we get cursed. Then we get cursed. Remember in the book of Bamidbar, in the book of Numbers, Balaam and Balak could not curse Israel. Balak hired Balaam to curse Israel. And remember, every time Balaam says, I bless you, every time he threw a curse, a blessing came out for Israel. And he himself said, I cannot curse whom Adonai has blessed. You can't, if Adonai blesses someone, nobody could curse him. If someone curses someone, nobody could bless him. But as Balaam went away, he turned back and told Balak, but I know how Israel could be cursed. I can't curse him. Nobody could curse him. But I could tell you how they could be cursed. Allow the women of Moab, of Midian, come and infiltrate the men. And once they are together, Adonai is going to have to curse them. And that's true. Adonai was forced to curse Israel, and many died because of our sin. Cursings come. Well, again, we're not talking salvation. We are a redeemed people. But, and then, I don't know if we should go through all the curses. A curse on the man who carves or casts an idol. Remember, the commandment says, do not make idols. A curse on the man who carves or casts idols, a thing detestable to Yahweh. The work of craftsman's hand sets it up in secret. And all the people shall answer, saying, what? Amen. Amen means I agree with it. Yes, Ken. Yes. See, I'm in agreement. Idol makers will bring a curse. Anyone who makes idols. In fact, here in New Mexico, we have a lot of people, they call them santeros. You ever heard of santeros? I have a primo who's a very famous santero. He makes santos. He makes bultos. He makes these idols of saints and all kinds of stuff. Here in New Mexico, we have all kinds of Native American kachinas. You know, I've gone to homes of believers where they have the kachinas, and they have, you know, not just bultos or santos or, you know, but they even have kachinas. They have cocopalis. All these things have to have gotten rid of our house, but can you imagine the person who makes them is cursed? Idol makers are a cursed people. By the way, many of them says, I'm a believer. But we're not talking salvation. We're talking about in this life. Adonai, what he wants to do as a redeemed people, he wants to give us success. We'll have success. A curse, a maldición, a curse is just where we don't get the blessings. We don't get what he wants for us. And then a curse on the one who treats his father or mother dishonorably. A curse on the one who displaces his neighbor's boundary mark. On the blind who leads a blind man astray, who tampers with the rights of the stranger, who sleeps with his father's wife, who lies with any kind of an animal, who is intimate with his sister, who is intimate with his mother-in-law, who strikes down his neighbor in secret, who accepts a bribe to take an innocent life, who does not maintain the words of this Torah by obeying them. And all the people to all these, they said, amen. We're in agreement. So every one of us should be in agreement with the curses. These curses will fall down if we do not. And again, this is just a short list. Think of it. Maimonides said that there's, 613 commandments? More or less. Some rabbis have said more, some rabbis less. Everybody sticks with Maimonides in the Middle Ages. Adonai did not give us 613 commandments, but that's what Maimonides counted. But there's all these commandments, and if we break these commandments that apply to us, because remember, not all commandments apply to us. Many commandments, in fact, the majority of the commandments have to do with the temple. Many of them have to do with men only. Some of them have to do with women only. Some of them have to do with this, with different aspects of life that might apply or might not apply. But if we don't keep the commandments, curses come. Curses come into our life. It's almost like in 1 Corinthians 3:10, it says, Paul says there, I have laid a foundation which nobody else can lay, which is Yeshua the Messiah. On this foundation, you could build with gold, silver, and precious stones, or with hay, wood, and stubble. But the work of every worker is going to be seen. It will begin with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. If his house stands, he will get his reward. But if his house is burnt down, he will be the loser. And though he himself is saved, it will be as one that has gone through the fire. If we build our house with hay, wood, and stubble, those are curses. And we'll end up the losers. We'll be saved. It says, and he shall be saved. Why? Because the foundation is what saves you, not the building. And the foundation is Yeshua the Messiah. He's given us his foundation, and we need to build on that. But, chapter 28, but if you obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, faithfully keeping and observing all the commandments of his that I enjoin on you today, Yahweh your Elohim will set you high above the nations of the earth. All the blessings that follow shall come upon you and overtake you if only you obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. All the blessings will overtake you. Now, I don't know about you, but I want blessings, not curses. In this block of time that we have to live. Now, I know I'm going to get blessings by grace through faith in eternity. But in the block of time, from salvation to glorification, this block of time is the time of sanctification. And the more we allow ourselves to be sanctified, to be set apart, the more we obey the voice of Yahweh our Elohim, the more blessings we'll have in this life and rewards in the next life. You will be blessed in the town and in the country. Blessed will be the fruit of your body, the produce of your soil, the issue of your livestock, the increase, the young, the flock. Blessed will be your pannier, James, and all the bread bin. Blessed be your pannier. What's a pannier? Your pan. Filled with all kinds of blessings there. Your puela. In Spanish we call it your puela. Your puela will be blessed. Blessed will you be coming in and blessed going out. By the way, these are promises that Adonai gives us conditionally. Conditionally. There was a book written several years ago called the Pocket Promise Book. All the promises in the Bible. The only thing that they didn't put there was if you obey. If you obey. You cannot get a pocket promise book. I will be blessed coming in. I will be blessed going out. I am a blessed person. And then go out and do and live the kind of life you want. That doesn't work. The promises are not there for you to declare and you'll have them. It's not a positive thinking type of a thing. Let me tell you. If you obey the voice, it says there, if you obey. Verse 1, at least my word says that. My translation says, but if you obey, but if, not carte blanche, he's going to give you blessings, but if you obey. And the enemies that will be against you, he'll conquer for your sake. They'll come in one way, they'll flee the other way. 7 ways. He'll summon a blessing for you in your barns. Yahweh will make you a people consecrated to himself. He'll make you his olive tree, as he has sworn to you, if you keep his commandments. By the way, people say, well, it's by grace. But what did in 1 John? If you love me, you will what? Keep my commandments. In fact, in verse 15, he goes on again, more lessons. But if you do not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, nor keep, and then all of a sudden your pannier and your bread bin will be accursed, and accursed will be all kinds of things. He will send you curses, frustrations, heart disease and all kinds of things, consumption, fever, inflammation there in verse 22, burning, fever, drought, blight, mildew. All these things he will bring. In fact, I'm working on a paper on how Adonai uses the things of nature to teach us lessons, that natural things that occur that we could learn lessons from. And so we could learn lessons from all these things as, why am I this? Why am I that? Well, and I really, really believe we are just beginning to find out what Torah is. I've been studying Torah for over 40 years. And I'm really beginning to figure out what Torah is. And so many times throughout the years I've said, oh, we're so far, far away. And we still are receiving curses because we're still not where we should be. Again, we're not talking salvation. We're talking sanctification. We're talking about this block of time he's given us between salvation and glorification. But there will be curses. In fact, verse 27, Yahweh will strike you with Egyptian boils and swelling in the groin, scurvy, the itch for which there will be no cure, madness, blindness, distraction of mind. You will never be anything but exploited and plundered continually. And again, this has been much the history of our people. But I will bless. And so part of the thing that he also says, if we don't follow him, exile. In fact, there in verse 47, it talks about war. Yahweh will raise up a far nation from the ends of the earth. This will be a nation whose language you do not understand, a nation of grim face, with neither respect for the old nor pity for the young. And again, he will come and they will come and bring a siege unto us and our sons and our daughters. In fact, watch what it even says. That verse 53. during the siege and in the distress to which your enemies will reduce you, you will eat the fruit of your body, the flesh of those sons and daughters of yours, which Yahweh has given you. Can you imagine that? Adonai will allow Israel to be even involved in cannibalism. Can you imagine that? And this exactly happened during the sieges of Nebuchadnezzar. And some even say with 70 AD with Titus, that the famine was so bad in the surrounding of Jerusalem, so bad that a mother would tell a woman, today we'll eat your baby, tomorrow we'll eat mine. And they were eating the babies because they were so famished. And why were they famished? Because of sin. Because we left our Elohim. Why did the earthquakes, the whirlwinds, why did they all come? Because we left Adonai, our Elohim. And these are wake-up calls for us to say, I need to be Torah observant. By the way, we're talking about Torah observance. You know what? Adonai, how many used to do high jump? Remember we used to do high jump? I could barely probably jump 2 feet today. I used to like high jumping. And the coach would set the bar. Let me tell you, Adonai has a bar for everyone, and that's Torah. That's all Adonai wants you to do. Torah is the bar. I know some people raise the bar and say, well, if we raise the bar and you could jump the raised bar, you definitely could jump what the coach said. But Adonai, the coach, has Torah. You don't have to go beyond Torah, never go away or less than Torah. All you have to do is Torah. And think of it. We don't do all of real Torah. Why should we spend our time doing that which is not Torah? We should just spend our time on Torah, what the Torah says. Get all the extra stuff out of the way and just say, I will follow Torah. I will be Torah observant. Verse 58. If you do not obey, if you do not observe all the words of this Torah that are written in this scroll. By the way, that's where we get the Torah scroll. The Torah scrolls that we have here. These are exact copies of this one that he's talking about. If you do not keep and observe all the words of this Torah that are written in this scroll, in the fear of this name of glory and Yahweh your Elohim, Yahweh will strike you down with monstrous plagues. And then he goes on again. Ay, ay, ay. In conclusion, verse 68. These are the words of the Brit. These are the words of the covenant which Yahweh ordered Moshe to make with the sons of Israel in the land of Moab, in addition to the covenant he had made with them at Horeb, at Sinai. And so what's interesting is that now the book of Deuteronomy, and we still have one more discourse. Next week begins another discourse, the last discourse. These are the words of the covenant that Yahweh made with Moses to make with the sons of Israel in the land of Moab. So before we crossed over, Adonai gave reminders and he added some stuff. To everything that Adonai gave him at Sinai, at Horeb, now he gives him this. By the way, a lot of people say, why is there a change of name. Why does it say Sinai and Horeb? Because when they were coming out of Egypt, that was the name of the mountain from the Egyptian point of view. But when they left Sinai and they went into the new country and obviously heard the name from this side, the land that we call Sinai or Mount Sinai from these people is named Horeb. So it's the same mountain, different names by different people. Just like the Sandia Mountains. The Sandia Mountains, their name is not the Sandia Mountains. They have another name. In fact, Sandia Pueblo is not named Sandia Pueblo. It was named after the mountains, but the Sandia Pueblo were there before the Spanish came and called them the Watermelon Mountains. Do you know the word Sandia Mountain means the watermelon mountains, las sandías? Because in the evening they look like sandías. Oh man. The Watermelon Mountains. But that's not the name that the Native Americans call them by. They call them by another name. And they could be called by different names from different peoples. So Adonai has spoken to us through his Torah. And this is for Israel. This is for his olive tree. Now the olive tree, as we close, is the people of Elohim. Paul, now this is interesting. Jeremiah 11:16. Watch what it says. A sturdy olive tree was Yahweh's name for you. But, he says there, with the roar of a fire, he will catch it on fire and the branches will burn. And Yahweh Sabaoth, who planted you, who planted Israel, who planted the olive tree of Israel? Yahweh did. Has decreed disaster on you because of the crime of the house of Israel and the house of Judah have committed by provoking me by burning incense to Baal. So, because of Israel's sin, because of our ancestors' sin, the beautiful olive tree, the fair, the spreading olive tree is going to be cut down of all those who unbelieve. When Yeshua came, the olive tree was very spindly. The olive tree was mostly cut down, and there was a lump of branches that had been cut off. It says in Jeremiah, there was branches that were cut off. And yes, there was the branch of Zechariah and Elisheva. There was the branch of Simeon. There was the branch of Hannah. There was these few branches that were believers. There was the branch of Miriam and Joseph. And from the branch of Mary, a branch grew out. And while everyone died, that one single branch, the branch from Jeremiah, from Zechariah, the branch, the netzer, with the olive tree all cut down because of unbelief, because of the curse, because they fell away from Adonai. That branch now comes to some of the pile of dead branches. It says, will you follow me? And there was John, and there was Andrew, and there was Peter, and there was 12 men who were regrafted into the olive tree of Israel because of faith, because of belief. The dead branches were unbelief. In fact, Peter says, "Get away from me, Master, for I am a sinful man." But Yeshua regrafted him. And then from the 12, there was 70. And then there was 120. And then there was 3,000 on the first Shavuot after the resurrection. And the olive tree regrew and regrew and regrew. Because of belief, because of blessing. The curses cut us off, but the blessings we graft us into the olive tree, and we become the people of Elohim again. And then one day, when this was a big, giant, beautiful olive tree again, all built on Yeshua, the branch, the netzer, all of a sudden, there was a wild olive branch called Cornelius. And the Ruach HaKodesh came upon him, and the Ruach HaKodesh grafted him among the rest, among the Jewish rest. And there was one wild olive that had assimilated now into the olive tree of Israel. And then after that, another wild olive, another. So now the olive tree, every one of you here, we are Jew and Gentile in the olive tree of Israel. Built on Yeshua, grafted and regrafted unto Yeshua. So now, what is our life flow? The same thing it's always been. The Torah. We need to follow Torah. To receive blessings, follow Torah. To receive cursings, don't follow Torah, and we will receive all the cursings. But you know what? Today, it's our choice. Our choice. Let's stand. Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to be here. We pray that your Ruach HaKodesh might bless each one. And Father, that today we could serve you as you have sent your Son to serve us by dying on the cross for us and by giving us everlasting life. In Yeshua's name, amen. Yeverechecha Yahweh vaish merecha. Ayir Yahweh panav elecha vichunecha. Asa Yahweh panav elecha vayasem lecha shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you, be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. Amen and amen. Join us on Wednesday, and we are going to be getting ready for Sukkot, and we've been studying on the feast, and we're going to talk about the fall feast and the importance of the fall feast for us. Shalom, shalom.